For nearly 60 years, the world believed it understood this photograph. A young Vietnam War soldier kneeling in the mud, helmet tilted just enough to reveal his weary eyes. Etched across the front of that helmet were three haunting words: "War is hell." It became one of the most powerful symbols of the Vietnam War, a portrait of innocence lost and the unbearable cost of battle. But ever wondered where you really come from? Not the stories, but the science. On this channel, we decode real DNA, uncover lost ancestries, and bring ancient genomes to life through cinematic storytelling. If that excites you, subscribe for weekly insights. Like the video to support science-based history. And drop a comment. Your questions help guide what we explore next. What if the true terror of that image wasn't in the message scrawled across the helmet, but in something hidden in plain sight? Something no one noticed for decades until modern technology revealed a detail that made experts go pale. What was it that lurked in the corner of that photograph? What could possibly make scientists, historians, and military experts recoil in disbelief after all these years? This is the story of a photograph that refused to stay silent. A story buried beneath 6 decades of denial, secrets, and science, until one image, captured in the humid jungles of Vietnam in 1965, exposed a truth darker than anyone dared imagine. The mystery begins not on the battlefield, but in a sterile, climate-controlled research lab in Washington, D.C. in the year 2025. At the Georgetown University Legacy Exposure Project, a team of researchers led by Dr. Aris Thorne, a renowned but controversial military epidemiologist, had one mission: to uncover the unseen physical scars of war. Their groundbreaking initiative aimed to use ultra-high-resolution scanning technology to re-examine historical photographs of soldiers. By analyzing skin texture, eye coloration, and even micro-expressions, the team hoped to identify early signs of chemical exposure, particularly from Agent Orange, the toxic defoliant that had devastated so many Vietnam veterans and their families. In early March 2025, Dr. Thorne's team was calibrating their latest creation, a gigapixel photo scanner, capable of revealing microscopic details invisible to the human eye. For the calibration test, they selected an image everyone knew: the 1965 "War is Hell" photograph, captured by legendary Associated Press journalist Horst Foss. It was meant to be just a baseline scan, something crisp, well-lit, and historically neutral. But what was supposed to be a simple test would soon unravel one of the darkest secrets of the Vietnam War. As the scanner began to hum, the soldier's face emerged on a towering 8K monitor, pixel by pixel. Every pore, every speck of dirt from that sweltering day in June 1965 came into focus. The machine rendered the image with such precision that the researchers could practically feel the jungle heat emanating from the screen. Kenji Tanaka, a young digital imaging specialist, leaned closer. He adjusted the focus beyond the famous helmet inscription, past the eyes, down to the neck. Then he froze.
At first, he thought it was an artifact, a glitch, a flaw in the image. But when he zoomed further, his stomach dropped. There, just beneath the edge of the soldier's collar, was a pattern unlike anything he'd ever seen. A faint, web-like discoloration spreading across the skin. It wasn't dirt. It wasn't shadow. It was something organic and unnatural. Dr. Thorne, noticing Kenji's sudden silence, stepped over. When he saw the pattern on the screen, his expression changed from curiosity to horror. The color drained from his face. He knew that pattern. He had seen it once before, buried deep in a classified medical archive. It was the chemical burn signature of a neurodermal agent, a weapon so toxic it had supposedly never left the laboratory. In that moment, a photograph that had symbolized the tragedy of war became something far darker. It was no longer just a portrait, it was evidence. And what Dr. Thorne had just seen would ignite a modern-day investigation into a conspiracy 6 decades in the making. The soldier in that photograph wasn't just a symbol. He was a real person, with a name, a family, and a story that had been quietly buried beneath history books. His name was Private Larry Wayne Chaffin. Born in 1946 in a small town in Missouri, Larry was the kind of young man who enlisted not out of pride, but out of duty. He was 17 when he married his high school sweetheart, Frances Morrison, and barely 18 when he shipped off to Vietnam as part of the 173rd Airborne Brigade. The year was 1965. The war was escalating, and few soldiers understood the scale of the nightmare they were walking into. On June 18, 1965, during a defensive operation at Phuc Vinh airstrip, the German war photographer Horst Voss followed the 173rd through the dense Vietnamese jungle. Exhausted, covered in grime, and emotionally shattered, the soldiers took a short break. Voss noticed one young paratrooper kneeling in the mud, helmet tilted low, his eyes staring off into the distance, neither here nor there. Scrawled in black marker across his helmet were 3 words: "War is hell." Voss raised his Leica camera and clicked. In that instant, Larry Chaffin's weary expression was frozen in time, a haunting reflection of the moral and physical toll of war. The photo spread across the world, in newspapers, magazines, and military bulletins. It became an emblem of the Vietnam experience, a mix of bravery, despair, and lost innocence. But at the time, Larry remained anonymous, the unknown soldier in one of history's most iconic images. It wasn't until years later that the mystery was solved. In 1971, Frances Chaffin, now a widow raising a young daughter, recognized the photograph in a book about the war. She stared at the eyes and knew instantly, "That's Larry." When she told reporters, she described him as a man who never came home the same. Larry had returned from Vietnam in 1966. At first, everything seemed normal. He joked about how his helmet photo had made it into Stars and Stripes, even telling his wife, "That picture's gonna make me famous someday." But fame never came, only illness.
Within a few years, Larry began suffering from severe fatigue, nerve pain, and erratic blood sugar levels. Doctors diagnosed him with early-onset diabetes, unusual for a man in his 20s. Then came the skin rashes, migraines, and depression. In 1985, at the age of just 39, Larry Wayne Chaffin passed away, his body failing from a combination of neurological and endocrine complications. The official cause? Complications from diabetes. The unofficial belief among his family? Agent Orange exposure. For decades, the story ended there. A soldier lost to the invisible poisons of war. But now, as Dr. Thorne stared at the spectral mark on Larry's neck through a magnified scan, he realized the truth was far worse. The discoloration wasn't caused by Agent Orange. It bore the molecular fingerprint of a classified compound known only by one name in declassified fragments: Banshee 7. The name Banshee 7 sounded like something out of a Cold War thriller, but to Dr. Eris Thorne, it was horrifyingly real. Buried in a half-redacted government file he had once accessed during his postdoctoral work, Banshee 7 was described as an experimental neurodermal organophosphate compound. Officially, it was terminated in 1963,
deemed too unstable for military use. Unofficially, it had vanished from the record. No trace, no follow-up, no evidence it had ever been destroyed. And yet here it was, its unmistakable chemical signature glowing on the skin of a 19-year-old soldier photographed 2 years later in Vietnam. Dr. Thorne couldn't believe what he was seeing. If the lesion on Larry Chaffin's neck truly matched the Banshee 7 pattern, it meant that someone, somewhere, had deployed a banned experimental toxin on the battlefield and had gotten away with it for 6 decades. He began combing through old Department of Defense archives, tracing every mention of Banshee 7. The more he dug, the darker the truth became. The compound had been developed under a classified contract between the U.S. military and a private chemical giant known as Omnigen Corporation. On paper, Omnigen's research division was tasked with creating a next-generation insecticide repellent for tropical warfare zones, a chemical barrier to protect troops from malaria-carrying mosquitoes. But internal memos told a different story. The so-called repellent wasn't meant to ward off insects. It was engineered to test the limits of human endurance. A toxin so fine-tuned it could seep through the pores, enter the bloodstream, and cripple the nervous system over weeks or months. Their victims wouldn't drop dead instantly. Instead, they grow weaker, slower, sicker, until the symptoms looked like natural disease. The perfect, deniable weapon. The program's codename? Project Banshee. Phase 7 was its final, most dangerous iteration, hence the designation Banshee 7. According to records, the project was shut down after several lab technicians suffered catastrophic neurological damage from accidental contact. The files claimed all samples were destroyed in a controlled incineration at an Omnigen facility in Virginia. But now, staring at that digital magnification of Larry's neck, Dr. Thorne realized those files were lies. The pattern of tissue degradation, the faint branching beneath the skin, matched the declassified autopsy photos of Banshee 7 exposure exactly. He pulled up images from 1963 test animals stored in a medical archive. The resemblance was undeniable. Dr. Thorne's voice trembled as he told his team, this soldier wasn't poisoned by nature, he was poisoned by design. The realization sent a chill through the lab. If Banshee 7 had made its way to the jungles of Vietnam, then someone in power had allowed it or ordered it to be tested in a live war zone, and the soldiers themselves had become the unwitting test subjects. What began as an effort to preserve history had now turned into a forensic investigation into one of the most chilling human experiments in military history. But Dr. Thorne was about to learn that the truth doesn't stay buried because no one can find it. It stays buried because someone powerful wants it that way. Within weeks of Dr. Thorne's discovery, his access to the archives was revoked. The files he had downloaded vanished from the university's servers overnight. Even the photograph's high-resolution scan, the one showing the faint mark on Larry's neck, was corrupted beyond recovery. An unsigned email arrived in his inbox the next morning. It contained only 5 words: "Leave the past buried, Doctor." Thorne quietly stepped back from his research. But before he did, he made one final move. He uploaded everything he found to an encrypted public ledger. The data sits there still, under a string of random characters, waiting for someone brave enough to verify it. And as for the photograph, it remains in the Smithsonian archives, restored but unreleased, locked behind classified preservation status. Every year, when historians revisit the Vietnam era, they still debate the truth behind that image. Was it just a weary young soldier captured in a fleeting moment of despair? Or silent proof of a secret experiment that changed the course of human warfare? One thing certain,
Behind that famous stare, frozen in 1965, lies a mystery that still makes experts turn pale every time they dare to zoom in. So what do you see when you look at that photograph now? A soldier haunted by the chaos of war? Or the first victim of something far more sinister, something never meant to be discovered? History is full of stories that were never meant to surface. But sometimes, a single photograph can speak louder than all the buried reports and sealed files combined. If this story left you questioning what really happened in Vietnam, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because there are countless more untold stories hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to finally connect the dots. And remember, the past doesn't stay buried forever. It waits, silent, until someone dares to zoom in.